Have you ever felt as if a door was quietly closing behind you? No sound, no warning, only your soul knowing something has died. Not your body, but a part of your past, an old version of yourself worn out, no longer yours to carry. The universe never takes anything away without giving back something greater. And sometimes for a new life to begin, the old one must quietly leave. Today, let me take you into that journey, a journey where every ending is only the beginning of rebirth. And it all starts the moment the first door closes. Dear Aries, close your eyes for a moment. Can you hear it, the soft wind slipping through the doors that have been shut inside your soul? That wind feels like a whisper from far away, yet so close, telling you something within you is ready to leave. It's not your body that's going. It's the wounds you've carried for too long. The self that once endured, once held everything together, once hid the pain just to survive, now slowly fades into the shadows. Do you remember how it feels when a long winter ends? The last snow melts, the ground cracks, dry and bare, looking meaningless. Yet in those cracks, seeds that were planted long ago begin to stir, reaching up toward the light. That's where you are now, Aries. The closing of an old chapter isn't a full stop. It's a pause that lets new life breathe and stretch. I know there are nights you sit alone, staring into the emptiness, asking yourself, why does everything have to fall apart? Why do the things I trusted disappear? The answer doesn't come through logic. It comes in the silence of your heart. And there you'll hear the voice of God. He never promised you'd never feel pain, but he did promise that after every breaking, you would find a spark of his sacred light waiting inside you. Symbolic death is not an ending. It's a baptism, a spiritual rite where your soul is reborn. That's why sometimes God lets relationships fade, jobs collapse, illusions fall away. Without those dissolving, how could you ever learn to stand on your own feet? How could you ever meet the truest version of your own soul? Think of the people who have walked out of your life. They're like characters in a long novel. Some stay through the whole story, others appear only for a chapter, leaving their mark, then quietly moving on. God writes those chapters not for you to resent them, but for you to understand that even loss holds a sacred value. Because only in losing do you begin to long for your real self. So Aries, let the leaving happen. Don't hold on to a door that has already closed. You may cry, you may tremble, you may feel empty. But trust this, in that emptiness, God is placing a new space in your hands, a space you will fill with light, like a candle that has burned out but still holds the flame, ready to light the next one. I once heard a man tell me his story. He had lost everything: his wife, his job, his career. One rainy evening he sat alone in a church, feeling like an empty shell. But there he heard a line from Scripture. There is a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to keep, and a time to let go. And he understood what he had lost wasn't the end, it was preparation for a greater beginning. A few years later he became a voice of hope for hundreds standing at the edge of despair. His story proves this. Symbolic death doesn't take life from you. It takes away the false shell so the pure core can emerge. And now, Aries, you too are walking into that journey. So breathe deeply. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper quietly, Lord, I am ready to release the old and welcome the new. When you say those words, you open a prayer, a covenant with the sky itself. And from that moment, you'll notice small, quiet miracles: a chance meeting, a strange dream, a book falling into your hands at just the right time. Each one is God's way of reminding you you are never alone. The road ahead may still hold darkness, Aries, but within that darkness, you will find your own light. And that light will lead you into the next layer of the story, a layer not only about departure, but also about return. Not only about the doors that have closed, but about the doors you never expected to open. And sometimes, what stirs your heart the most is the return of someone you thought was gone forever. There are nights when you sit by the window, watching darkness slowly fall over familiar streets. And suddenly, a face drifts through your memory, as if time itself had never passed. That person, the name you once whispered in your sleep, the smile that once made your heart tremble appears again. Not by walking into your life, but maybe in a dream, in a song that plays unexpectedly in a cafe, or in a fleeting glance across a crowded room. And you wonder, why now? Why, after all these years, do they return? We often dream of a return as if it were a miracle, that the one who left would come back to mend the pieces, to finish the story that was left undone. But life does not always follow the script our hearts desire. Sometimes their return does not bring roses, it brings a period. Not to heal, but to help you finally understand. Some doors are never meant to be opened again. Maybe you once prayed, "God, give me a sign. If they are still mine, send them back." And God listened, but He did not send them back to stay. He sent them back to give you one last lesson, the lesson of letting go. Because without their return, your heart might have remained chained to hope. And sometimes, hope itself becomes the shackle that keeps you from stepping into a new life. Their return is like the final mirror you must look into. And in their eyes, you no longer see the beautiful promise of yesterday, only the shadow of who you once were. And then you realize, what you long for is not really them, but the part of yourself who could still love, still trust, still dream. That version has already died with the years, and now returns only so you can lay it to rest, to say a true goodbye. In those moments, your heart will tremble. You will want to cling, to ask, to try again. But then a silence will wash over you, like a gentle breeze on your cheek, reminding you, God did not bring them back for another chance at love. He brought them back so you could learn to close the past, not in bitterness, but in peace. Picture yourself standing before an ancient gate. For so long you tried to pass through, but it stayed closed. And now their return is the final key. But this key is not to open the gate, it is to show you that gate was never meant for you. And when you accept that truth, another path suddenly shines beside you, leading you toward the sunrise. So if one day you receive a message, a phone call, or a chance encounter, do not only look at the person before you. Look within. Ask yourself, do I truly want them back, or do I just miss the dream I once carried? Because sometimes what we think is missing is only a piece that has already completed its purpose. And when you find the courage to place a final period, to say goodbye at last, something strange happens. Your heart feels lighter. Your steps move forward, no longer dragged back by the weight of old shadows. You begin to see ahead where light falls like a new promise. The past returns not to love you again, but to show you how far you've grown. And in that parting, you receive the greatest gift, freedom. Freedom to love yourself. Freedom to open to something better. Freedom to live without the ghosts of yesterday. And in that very moment, as you release, you hear a deep echo like a voice from the heavens. I gave you this lesson so you would finally choose yourself. That is God's whisper, not to wound you, but to heal you. And then, when the last tear falls and you lift your eyes, you see something else. A sign that even endings can open into beginnings. A new journey, where the sky no longer asks only for release, but begins to offer guiding light. And if you let your soul grow still, you'll notice it in the darkness of farewell. A torch already burns, showing you the way forward. In the silent pages of the heavens, there is one planet known as the keeper of secrets in the dark, Pluto. It is not loud like the sun, not radiant like Venus, not quick like Mercury. Pluto moves slowly, quietly, yet each time it touches a point in a person's chart, it leaves behind profound upheaval, as if the entire soul has been placed into the furnace of destiny. When Pluto crosses the ascendant of those born under Aries, it is more than an astronomical event. It is a summons from the universe, the moment for every layer of disguise to fall, so that a new self can be born. Picture yourself standing before a volcano that has slept for 1,000 years. On the surface, it looks still, silent, lifeless, but deep within, magma stirs, burning slowly, waiting. And one day, no force can hold it back. It erupts, tearing everything apart, burning away what is rotten, only to create new soil, rich and fertile. That is the energy of Pluto in your journey. Pluto does not come to destroy. It comes to free you. It cuts away the ties you cling to out of fear, the job that no longer nourishes your spirit, The relationship where love has dried the beliefs that once lifted you but now hold you captive. Pluto makes them collapse not because you are weak, but because it is time for a new chapter to begin. I once met an Aries woman while Pluto crossed her ascendant. She told me that in just 1 year, her 30-year marriage ended, her career collapsed, and her beloved father passed away. She called it the slow death of everything that once held me. But 3 years later, from the ashes, she founded an organization helping women heal from divorce and loss. And she told me a sentence I have never forgotten. If I hadn't let the old version of me die, I would never have truly lived. That is Pluto's message. When it touches your life, it asks, do you dare let what has rotted fall away so the new can be born? The answer is never easy because we fear loss more than we long for rebirth. But remember this, in God's hands, every loss is sacred design. God never takes without preparing a greater gift. Pluto is only his instrument, cutting away what no longer belongs to your soul. As you stand in that storm, you will watch the familiar collapse. The mirror will no longer reflect the face you once knew. But if you look closely in your eyes and your trembling hands, a new self begins to emerge. A self not built to please others, not pretending to be strong, but the raw, original self you were meant to be. That is Pluto's gift. And as you begin to pass through this transformation, something strange happens. The fear of loss slowly turns into gratitude, for every piece that leaves you is like an old garment that no longer fits. You no longer curse what is gone, because you see that it cleared the way for something greater to be born. If right now your life feels as if it's cracking open, as if everything is falling through your hands, do not panic. No one walks through Pluto and remains the same. And no one walks through Pluto without finding new strength. This storm has not come to kill you, it has come to bring you closer to your true soul. So allow yourself to breathe, to cry, to pray. And in every prayer whisper, Lord, grant me the strength to let go and lead me to where my soul belongs. When you dare to say that, the darkness is no longer frightening because within it, a new flame is already rising. And then, when Pluto's light shines into the deepest corners, you realize death is not a period. It is a doorway to rebirth. And beyond that doorway, another lesson awaits. A lesson of loss, yes, but also of awakening. A lesson where the heart is tempered to grow strong, and the soul is called by name, to step forward into a higher path. On the human journey, there are moments when it feels as if everything has shattered. One morning you open your eyes, and the hand that once held yours is no longer there. One afternoon you walk out of the place you've worked for years, knowing that door has closed forever. One quiet evening, the news of a loved one's passing shakes your heart to its core. Loss never asks permission. It comes like a sudden storm tearing through the sky, leaving behind a hollow space that feels impossible to fill. And you sit there, among the broken pieces, asking, God, why would you let this happen to me? But then, after long days drowned in tears, another rhythm begins to rise. At first, it is faint, like a whisper in the wind, like sunlight slipping gently through the leaves. Slowly, that rhythm grows stronger, blending with the beat of your own heart, whispering, this is not the end. This is the beginning of something new. God never takes away just to leave you empty. He takes away so that you can return to yourself whole, stronger than before. I remember a middle-aged Aries man. Within a single year, he lost both his career and a marriage of 20 years. His friends saw only collapse. But in those dark days, he found his way to a church, sitting alone in the wooden pews, hearing scripture echo, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." And in that silence he wept, not tears of despair, but tears from realizing God was still holding him close. Years later, he founded a non-profit helping men lost after divorce. He told me, if I hadn't lost everything back then, I would never have found myself, and I would never have been able to help anyone else. That is the nature of loss. It is like a fire that sweeps through an old forest. In the moment, everything becomes ash, and yet from that very ash, new shoots push through, greener and stronger than ever. Loss is not a final period. Loss is the fertile soil where the soul blossoms again. So when you look around and see what was once solid crumbling away, don't only see the darkness. Close your eyes and pray. Lord, I do not understand why this is happening, but give me the strength to believe that you have something better prepared for me. And when you pray with your whole heart, something mysterious happens. You begin to feel lighter, as if the weight on your shoulders is being lifted. And in that peace, a new path quietly opens before you. Every loss carries its own reminder. You are not what you own. You are not only the person you once loved. You are not your title or your role in society. You are an eternal soul, and that soul can always be reborn. When you let the old version of yourself die, you allow yourself to enter the true life God intended for you from the moment you took your first breath. Perhaps you once believed strength meant holding on tightly, but sometimes true strength comes from letting go. Letting go so your heart feels lighter, so your empty hands are free to receive what is new. And in that moment of release, you realize you are not alone. Around you, light begins to spread through new people entering your life, through unexpected opportunities, through the growing faith in your heart. Loss teaches you how to cherish the chance to live, to breathe, to love. It teaches you to bow before the mystery of life, that we cannot control everything, but we can choose how to walk forward. And when you choose to believe that loss is also grace, you begin to see meaning in every crack of your heart. Let loss become a teacher, not just a burden. For from it you learn humility, patience, and a deeper love for others. Those who have known loss know pain, and because of that they are the very ones who can comfort and heal other souls. And then, as the light of awakening slowly spreads within you, a gentle truth is revealed. Nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is only transformed. The person who left remains as love in your memory. The job that ended clears space for a greater calling. Winter ends only so spring may begin. Loss does not take life away. It opens the door to a deeper life, a life where you finally meet yourself again. And in that new peace, another door begins to open. A door leading you to something deeper, something sacred, where the sky no longer speaks only of loss but begins to whisper about the mystery of the holy cycles, where the moon and the 8th house begin to tell their story. There are nights when you look up at the sky, and the full moon is so bright it feels as if it could uncover every secret in the human heart. That light doesn't just fall on rooftops, trees, or rivers below, it shines into the deepest corners within you. In astrology, when the full moon lingers in the 8th house, it is not just a natural event. It is a hidden appointment between your soul and destiny. The 8th house, the house of death, rebirth, and what is concealed suddenly opens like an invisible gate, inviting you into a journey that feels strange, yet sacred. The 8th house always carries a veil of mystery. It's like the old room in the family home where relics and secrets are hidden away. But that room holds the most important keys, the ones that show you who you really are. And when the full moon visits, everything is illuminated. Nothing can hide beneath the dust of time. The truths you avoided, the wounds you covered, they surface, asking you to face them at last. Many fear the 8th house because they think of death. But the death here is not a final end. It is a ritual. It is like a sacred midwife standing at the threshold, carrying your soul into another realm. A symbolic death so the old can fall away and the new can be born. And sometimes, only in that moment do you realize you have never truly lost anything. You have only been reborn. Imagine yourself stepping out into a full moon night, standing alone in an empty courtyard. The moonlight pours down and you see your shadow stretch long, trembling, fragile. And then you notice that shadow no longer looks like the one you know. It carries the shapes of old fears, old roles you once played. The dutiful child living only for your parents, the spouse enduring endlessly to keep a marriage intact, the employee bowing low just to hold a job. But under the full moon of the 8th house, those masks rise up, then fall away like worn-out garments slipping from your shoulders. You stand there lighter, barer, but more true. God has arranged for the moon in the 8th house to be the lamp that illuminates your soul. He wants you to understand, death is not the enemy. Death is the midwife. Only when part of the old leaves can the new part be born, and you no longer have to live in roles that are not yours. You begin to live as yourself, raw, pure, radiant as the very first flame. I once heard a woman speak of her experience under a full moon in the 8th house. She had lost her husband, and on that night, sitting alone, she felt his soul beside her, not in the body she once knew, but as a stream of light surrounding her. She said that for the first time she no longer feared death because she understood. Love never dies. It only changes form, becoming finer, deeper. And from that night on, she began a new path, writing books to help others who had lost loved ones find peace again. That is the miracle of the 8th house. It makes you believe everything is ending, but in truth, it is opening a new chapter. Like when you finally let go of one closed door and suddenly see another opening in front of you. The full moon does more than bring light. It brings a message. Have the courage to walk into the dark, because only there will you see how brightly your inner light burns. And when you allow your soul to be still under that moonlight, something extraordinary happens. Fear dissolves into peace. You stop running. You accept. And in that acceptance, you feel an unseen hand on your shoulder whispering, "You are not alone, I am here." And from this moment on, you will walk into true life. As this silent ritual closes, you feel an emptiness in your heart, but it is a gentle emptiness full of promise. And from that space, new trials come. Not from the sky this time, but from people. Relationships you thought were finished suddenly return, knocking again at your door as if destiny still has one last test prepared for you. In the slow turning of the heavens, there are moments when the universe seems to pull everything backward. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, when she enters her retrograde cycle, is no longer the sweet muse of romance and joy. She becomes a strange mirror, pulling from the shadows old stories, familiar faces, and wounds that never fully healed. And when that light falls upon your life, things you thought were over suddenly knock at your door once again. It might be a message after years of silence, a phone call just when you thought peace had finally returned, or maybe a dream so vivid that you wake still hearing their laughter, their voice, as if they had never left. That is how Venus retrograde works, bringing the past back, not to continue it but to show you how much you have grown. Many mistake this return as fate, as a second chance to love, but Venus does not come to rewrite an old story. Venus comes to ask the question, are you still binding your heart to the past, or are you ready to choose yourself? The one who returns does not come to heal you. They return to test you, to see if this time you are strong enough to let go of what once broke you. Picture yourself sitting in a quiet room, a candle flickering gently. The door opens and that person steps inside. Your heart races, memories rush over you like summer rain. But look closer. They are no longer who they were in your memory, and you are no longer who you used to be. The distance is not in the years, it is in the maturity of your soul. And when you see that clearly, you understand. This return is not for continuation, but for closure. The Bible once said, "To everything there is a season, a time to begin, and a time to end." The return under Venus retrograde is that reminder. It is time to stop searching for love in the past and begin to find love within yourself. God does not send them back to make you happy once more. He allows them to return so that you can see how much you've changed, so you can stand in peace and say, "I am grateful for what was, but now I choose to walk alone." The test of Venus is like a final exam before you are handed your diploma in love. It is not gentle, it may make your heart ache once more. But after those tears comes clarity. You know now that you don't need anyone to define your worth. You don't need someone's return to know you deserve love. And in that moment, you truly choose yourself. You choose inner love. You choose the freedom of your soul. Some people come back during Venus retrograde with apologies, with late promises. Others appear only in a chance glance across the street. But in every form, the message is the same. Close the past with gratitude so your heart can be at peace. Do not resent. Do not cling. It is only a test to see if you have finally grown. And when you pass this test, your heart feels different. It no longer waits, no longer circles back to the same old questions. It is calm, open, ready to receive what is new. Because once the past is placed back where it belongs, the future will find its way to you. Remember this, every Venus retrograde is a chance to look at yourself again. Not to relive old memories, but to see more clearly who you are today. And when you accept that the one who returned came only to finish an unfinished lesson, you will feel your heart set free. In that silence, as the light of Venus begins to fade, another flame rises on the horizon. No longer the shadow of the past, but the figure of another sign carrying truth, freedom, and a brand new path. An energy like a torch lifted high, lighting the way before you, so you no longer fear the darkness ahead. On the longest nights, when you feel there is no way forward, suddenly, a light flickers. Not blinding, not loud, just enough for you to know you can still take another step. That is the energy of Sagittarius. Sagittarius doesn't appear to fill the emptiness in your heart, nor to replace what you've lost. They arrive like a traveler holding a torch, standing at the crossroads, showing you a path you never thought you could walk. Sagittarius is the symbol of truth, of freedom, of knowledge. When this energy touches your life, you begin to see that love is not chains, not attachment, not dependency. True love is what makes you see yourself more clearly, grow deeper, and dare to live honestly with your soul. Sagittarius comes like a teacher sent by God not to hand you the answers, but to shine light on the questions, so you can walk your own way and find your own road. Imagine yourself in a vast desert, covered in night, no sense of direction. Just as you believe you are lost, someone approaches. They don't give you a map, they don't promise to carry you out, but they place a torch in your hand. The flame doesn't light the horizon just enough to show the ground before you so you can take one more step. And one step is enough to change everything. That is the power of Sagittarius. The light doesn't save you, but it gives you faith to keep going. Many meet Sagittarius in life not as a lover, but as a teacher, a friend, or even a fleeting conversation. In a cafe, a book that falls into your hands, or a verse of scripture that finds you at the exact moment you need it. Sagittarius doesn't always have a face, but the energy always carries the same invitation. Be brave enough to expand, to step beyond the old limits. And when you listen, you discover a truth. Loss is not meant to break you, it is meant to guide you toward a new light. Sagittarius is the reminder that God has never abandoned you. He sends this light in unexpected ways, so you can see that darkness only lasts until a flame is lit. I once knew a middle-aged Aries man who lost everything after a painful divorce. He wandered in despair, believing his life was nothing but fragments. But then, on a trip, he met a new friend, a Sagittarius. That friend didn't speak in poetry, didn't make grand promises. He simply placed a book in the man's hands and said, "Read this. You might find what you're looking for." From that book, the Aries man discovered a spiritual path he had never imagined. A few years later, he became a source of inspiration for others facing divorce, helping them rise from the ashes. That is the miracle of Sagittarius. They don't walk for you, but they give you faith that you can walk. You see, no one can replace what has been lost. But there are people, there are energies who appear only to shine a light so you can keep moving. Sagittarius teaches that truth does not crush you. Truth sets you free. Freedom doesn't mean loneliness, it means having the strength to walk on your own feet, trusting the light of your soul. And when you let that light lead you, you'll find your heart no longer trembles as it once did. You stand taller, walk steadier, and most of all, you no longer fear the dark. Because now you know, with just one torch, you can pass through any night. In the quiet of that illumination, something remarkable happens. You no longer wait for light from others. You begin to ask, could I become a torch for someone else? Could my wounds, my losses, my falls become a light that carries another soul? And when that question rises, you know your rebirth has begun. From the ashes of pain, an Aries soul rises radiant, unyielding, carrying the torch meant for the world. In the moments when everything seems to collapse, when the last door closes and the darkness falls, that is often the very moment when the soul begins a new journey. Rebirth never arrives with noise or celebration. It comes quietly. in the long nights spent alone, in the tears that fall unseen. And yet from the cracks in the heart, a small light begins to flicker, and that light is what guides the way back to life. Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac, was born to lead. When they rise again, it is not simply standing up from the rubble. It is stepping out with a heart burning brighter, stronger than before. Rebirth does not make Aries into someone new, it brings them closer to the original essence God placed within them: courage, resilience, and the flame of life. I have met many Aries after their storms. They had been betrayed, they had lost, they had walked through nights with no way out. But when they returned, there was a new depth in their eyes, a wisdom, a fire no longer easy to extinguish. One woman told me her story. After divorce, after losing her job, she believed her life was finished. But then she began to write. Each page became a name for her wounds. She wrote first for herself, then for others. And one day, her books became comfort for thousands of readers. That is rebirth, not only healing yourself, but turning pain into light for others. Rebirth does not mean you will never hurt again. It means you will feel more deeply, and instead of fearing it, you learn to hold it. Every scar becomes a place where the light can enter. Every loss becomes not a period, but a comma opening a new sentence of life. And in that new sentence, there is always a promise. After the night, there will always be dawn. In Scripture it says, "Those who walk in darkness will see a great light." And Aries is living proof of that promise. When they emerge from the shadows, they carry a strength not only for themselves, but for others. Because those who have fallen and risen are the ones who know how to lift. Those who have cried in solitude are the ones who can wipe away another's tears. Aries reborn becomes a torch, not a torch waved high in pride to boast of victory, but a gentle light that shows the way for those still wandering in the night. They don't need grand words. Their presence alone is a reminder. You can survive, you can rise, you too can be reborn. And when you look at a reborn Aries, you see the flame was never meant just for them. It was meant to spread. Like one candle lighting hundreds of others, the flame does not diminish, it grows brighter. That is when Aries becomes proof of the power of love and resilience. Imagine a dark valley where many souls are lost. Suddenly a flame is lit. At first small, trembling in the wind, but step by step it grows, lighting faces, warming hearts gone cold. That is Aries after rebirth. And when others see it, they too are encouraged to light their own. The miracle is that this light is not only in outer success or visible triumphs. It is found in kindness, in gratitude, in the depth of love. An Aries who has fallen will love with humility. They will live with reverence for every moment, and they will not hesitate to reach for another soul in need. This is the final mission of rebirth, not only to live again for yourself, but to become life for others. True light is never kept. It is shared. So if you are listening right now, still sitting in the dark, remember this: you too can be reborn. Darkness is not the end. It is the place where your flame is waiting to rise. And when it rises, you will not only save yourself, you will become the light that leads someone else, someone out there who needs to see you so they can believe they can rise too. Rebirth is never a lonely journey. It is the journey of souls placed side by God, to shine, to lift, to remind one another that life, fragile as it is always a miracle. And you, after all you've been through, you are proof of that miracle.